Alright guys, welcome back to Learnlyte. Today we're going to learn about getting information from the user. So in programming, there are times when we want our program to directly interact with the user, meaning that we want our program to basically ask the user for some sort of information, and the user themselves has to supply that information. The best way I can think of to explain this concept is to think of a video game. A video game is basically a computer program that you, the player, are interacting with. You press a button on your controller and you're basically passing some information into the computer program. And based on the information that you pass into the program, the computer program will make your character run, jump, fly, or perform some super combo within the video game. And that's why in this video we're going to be focusing on getting information from the user in Python. So let's begin. So now I'm gonna bring up the Python shell right here. Oops, Python shell. So to get or to request information from the user in Python 3, we're gonna use the input function, and you'll see just how that works in a minute. So I'm gonna create a variable called value. And then now to get information from the user or to prompt the user to enter some information using their keyboard, I'm going to say input, and then I'm going to say inside of the input function, I'm going to have my message to the user. So I'm going to say, please enter your name. Okay. As a matter of fact, I think name would be a better variable to use right here. N-A-M-E, right. So we use the input function to basically prompt the user to enter some sort of information using their keyboard. And in Python 3, the function is input. If you're using Python 2, I believe it's raw input. So we're gonna go ahead and hit enter, and you can see the prompt comes up. Please enter your name. I'm gonna enter my name, Theodore. And then now, if I call the variable name again, you can see we get Theodore. All right. So that's one way. That's the way to get information from the user in Python. Let's look at another example. This example, I'm going to create a variable, I should say, called phone number. This is going to be equal to input. Remember, the input function is used to prompt the user to enter information, and it's also used to collect that information. And inside the input function, we're going to have our message to the user. So I'm going to say, please enter your phone number. All right. Go ahead and hit enter. It prompts us, please enter your phone number. And the phone number I'm going to enter is 222-8888. I hit enter. So if I call phone number again, and I hit enter, you can see I get a string. So that's an important point to note. When getting information from the user using the input function, that information is always a class of string. Regardless of if you enter a string, a number, or a float, any information collected by the input function will always be of type string or type string, I should say. So with that being said, if you want to work with numbers when using the input function, the best thing to do is to typecast it, meaning that you have to convert it from a string to an integer in this case, since we're working with phone numbers. So what we can do is we can say phone number is going to be equal to int. This is a function that is used to convert strings to integers. We're going to pass the variable phone number here. I'll go ahead. But before we do that, let me just show you a proof of concept. If I were to write type, and inside this I have phone number underscore number, I go and hit enter, you can see I get a class of string. So remember, any information collected from the user using the input function will be of type string or class string. So we need to convert this phone number to an integer, And how we do that, we're basically going to say phone number equals int. Using the int function, we pass the variable phone number into it. Go ahead and hit enter. So now if I do type, and I pass in phone number again, I'm basically gonna get a class of integer. And that's what this function here does. This is known as typecasting, when we convert from one type to another. So this function basically takes a string, and if it's all numbers, it will convert it from a string to a integer. All right, let's look at another example. I'm gonna create this variable called pi. I'm gonna have this say input, and the message to the user is please enter a value for pi. Alright, go ahead and hit enter. So the value for pi, I believe, is 3.14 something something, 67 maybe. Go ahead and hit enter. So if I call pi, I get that. I get my answer, but it is a string. It's because if I do a type, if I use the type function and I hit enter, you can see I get a class string. So I want to convert this to a float now. So I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to say pi equals float, which is a built-in Python function. Pass the variable pi into it, and float will basically take a string, which is made up of numbers, and convert it to a float. So we go ahead and hit enter, and we say type, and we say pi, and we get a class float. All right, so you can see how we can use the input function to basically gather information or valuable information from the user, which they have to actually type in. So it's a way of getting the user to directly interact with the program. So let's look at this, or a final example, in the form of a function. So I'm going to write a function over here, and let's take a look at it. So let's begin by writing the function name. So I'm going to call this function calculator. And this one won't be taking any variables, any arguments I should say, because we're going to get all the arguments supplied by the user. So we're going to begin by first printing a message to the user. So we're going to say print. Inside this I'm going to say welcome to the calculator app. All right. If you're wondering what this \n is, it's just a way of telling Python to print in a new line. So rather than continuously printing in the same line, this character right here will tell Python to print in a new line. All right, so we're gonna have that. We're gonna say num1 is equal to input. Inside this we're gonna say please enter a number, followed by the new line character. Then we're gonna say num2 is gonna be equal to input. Now the message to the user, I'm gonna say please enter another number. Okay, and then now I'm gonna say choice is equal to the input, and now I'm gonna type in a long message. Well, it shouldn't be that long. So I'm gonna say please enter the plus to add the numbers, or should I say please enter plus or minus or multiplication or division to either add, subtract, multiply or divide the numbers. All right, let's bring this up. So please enter plus or minus or multiplication or division to either add, subtract, multiply, or divide the numbers respectively. All right. And then now we're gonna have some condition, because sometimes when a user is making a choice, you want, basically when the user is entering information, you sometimes want to give them a choice. So we're gonna say if choice equals, so if choice equals, then I'm gonna have the string plus character. What I want to do, I want to add the numbers, so result is going to be equal to int num1, because remember, num1 is going to be a string in this case, because remember, any information gathered from the input function will be a string, so we now have to convert it to an integer. It's going to be num1 plus int num2. Alright, then what we're going to do is we're gonna return, or better yet, we're just gonna print the result. All right, and then we're gonna have else if. So else if choice equals, in this case now we're gonna have the minus sign. Then we're gonna come back up here, we're gonna copy all this. Let's copy all this right here. And the only difference is we're gonna, in this case, subtract the numbers instead. Alright. And then down here, we're gonna say else if again. So if choice, this time equals the multiplication. And what we're gonna do is the same thing, only now just going to multiply them. And finally, I'm going to say else if choice is equal to the division sign. We're just going to divide the numbers instead. Alright? And rather than print, let me just return. Here, and then finally what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say else, I'm gonna return, if it's neither one of those, I'm gonna return this is not a valid character. Okay, there we go. So we're gonna hit save and let's run this one. Okay, so we're gonna call the function calculator. Alright, and let's see what we get. Welcome to the calculator. Please enter a number 8. Please enter another number 8. Alright, please enter plus. Okay, so I want to basically multiply them. Enter the multiplication sign, hit enter, we get 64, and 8 eighths is actually 64. Alright, there's one. Oh, let me hurry up and just fix that new line character there. Oops, let's get rid of that. There we go. Okay, let's try that again. Let's run the function. So it's called calculator. Alright, welcome to the calculator app. Enter a number 4, enter another number 3, and what I want to do, I want to add them, so I enter the plus, and we get 7. Nice. Let's try one more time. Calculator. So you can see how the function is basically requiring the user to interact with them. 5, another number 10, and I want to subtract them this time. And I get minus 5, because 5 minus 10 is negative 5. And you can see the calculator app is working quite fine. And you can see how we're basically using the input function to basically gather information from the user, making the program more interactive. So now the user has to directly supply this information, and upon hitting enter, it will basically pass that information into our function where we do some sort of choice right here using some if statements, which I covered a couple of videos back. So that's it on getting input from the user. I hope throughout all this practice you've come to appreciate it. So just to do a quick recap, we talked about getting information from the user, and to get information from the user we basically use the input function, and inside of the input function we write the message that we want to appear to the user to basically prompt the user to enter some sort of information. And we realize that any information entered using the input function is always of class string. So if we're working with numbers or floats, it is best to get the information from the user and then basically convert it from a string into the appropriate data type, whether it be integer in this case or a type float in this case. So remember, the information gathered from the input function is always of class string or type string. So when working with numbers, always remember to convert it from a string to a number, unless you have some errors that you would want to get rid of. And here we just wrote a simple calculator app or function that basically just adds, subtract, multiply, or divide two numbers based on what the user enters. Alright, and that's it for this video. If you like it, please share, comment, and subscribe for more content. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And once again, thank you for watching.